What if I told you that you're not just one person, but multiple versions of yourself, each living a separate life in the minds of others, and that these versions are constantly evolving, influenced by every interaction, every conversation, and every decision you make? And one of these versions, your ghost self, is the one that people remember long after you've stopped interacting with them, a lingering presence that can evoke emotions, memories, and even regrets. You have probably experienced this before, where someone from your past suddenly reaches out to you, and you're left wondering what they're thinking, what they remember about you, and how they perceive you now. This can be a surreal experience, as if you're encountering a stranger who knows you intimately, yet is still a mystery to you. The concept of a ghost self is closely related to the idea of ghosting, a behavior where someone suddenly stops responding to messages or interactions, leaving the other person wondering what happened, and often feeling confused, hurt, and even betrayed. This can be particularly hurtful, as the person being ghosted is left with a sense of uncertainty, not knowing what they did wrong, how to process their emotions, or how to move on. Lenderman, a musician, has written about the pain of being ghosted, and how it can leave a lasting impact on a person's self-esteem, making them question their worth, their attractiveness, and their ability to form meaningful connections with others. The experience of being ghosted can be so profound that it can even lead to a re-evaluation of one's own relationships, values, and priorities. You're watching Mind Unlocked, where we decode the hidden patterns of the human mind, and explore the complexities of human relationships, which are often marked by contradictions, paradoxes, and mysteries. The idea of having a ghost self is a fascinating one, as it highlights the complex nature of human relationships, which are influenced by multiple factors, including our past experiences, our emotions, our thoughts, and our behaviors. Noein, a philosophical concept, explores the idea of multiple parallel universes, each containing a different version of ourselves, and while this might seem like a far-fetched idea, it's actually closely related to the concept of ghosting, as it suggests that our interactions with others create multiple parallel versions of ourselves, each living a separate life in the minds of others. This idea challenges our traditional understanding of identity, selfhood, and relationships, and invites us to consider the possibility that our sense of self is not fixed, but rather fluid, dynamic, and constantly evolving. And here is the part that hits close to home: the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every relationship you have, and this means that the way you treat yourself, the way you think about yourself, is reflected in the way others perceive you. When you ghost someone, you're not just ending a relationship, you're also creating a ghost self, a version of yourself that will continue to exist in the mind of the other person, and this can be a powerful reminder of the impact that our actions can have on others. Think about that for a second: the fact that your actions can create a lasting impression on someone, long after you've stopped interacting with them, and that this impression can be either positive or negative, depending on how you choose to behave. This realization can be both empowering and intimidating, as it highlights the responsibility that comes with forming connections with others.
You have probably done this before, ghosted someone, or been ghosted by someone, and it's a painful experience, one that can leave you feeling confused, hurt, and unsure of what to do next.
But what if you could use this experience as an opportunity for self-improvement, to focus on building a better relationship with yourself, and to develop a greater sense of self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-compassion?
I started focusing on self-improvement 3.5 years ago, and it has made a huge difference, as one person shared, highlighting the importance of self-care and self-awareness in building strong, healthy relationships.
This journey of self-discovery can be challenging, but it can also be transformative, as it allows you to develop a deeper understanding of yourself, your values, and your goals, and to make choices that align with your true desires and aspirations.
Psychologist Pauline Boss coined the term ambiguous loss to describe grief that occurs without closure, without a clear ending or explanation, and ghosting fits this definition with uncomfortable precision.
When someone disappears from your life without a word, your brain cannot complete the narrative arc it craves, so it replays the final interactions over and over, searching for a clue it will never find. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships by Friedman and colleagues found that approximately 25% of participants had been ghosted by a romantic partner, and roughly 20% admitted to ghosting someone else, numbers that reveal how normalized this form of silent departure has become in the age of dating apps and instant messaging.
The absence of a farewell forces the ghosted person into a kind of psychological limbo, maintaining a mental representation of someone who is simultaneously present in memory and absent in reality.
Imagine having a friend, someone who knows you, understands you, and accepts you for who you are, and this is what having friends is like, a sense of belonging, of being part of something bigger than yourself. But what if you could take this concept a step further? What if you could create a sense of friendship with yourself, a sense of acceptance, understanding, and compassion? And this is the key to building a strong, healthy relationship with yourself, one that will set the tone for every other relationship you have. This journey of self-discovery can be challenging, but it can also be rewarding, as it allows you to develop a deeper understanding of yourself, your strengths, and your weaknesses, and to cultivate a sense of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness. By learning to be a good friend to yourself, you can become a better friend to others, and form more meaningful, more lasting connections with the people you meet. One person shared their experience of dropping a best friend of 16 years and finding peace in that decision, a story that complicates our assumptions about ghosting and relationship endings. Sometimes a deliberate withdrawal is not cruelty but self-preservation, a recognition that a dynamic which once nourished you has become something that drains your energy, distorts your self-image, or keeps you locked in patterns you have outgrown.
The critical difference between ghosting and a conscious farewell lies in communication, in whether you offer the other person enough information to close the chapter on their end, even if that conversation is painful.
What that 16-year friendship story reveals is that the ghost self you leave behind in someone else's mind does not have to be an unfinished wound. It can be a complete portrait, respectful and honest, if you choose to exit with clarity rather than silence. The question of whether it is ever appropriate to ghost someone does not have a universal answer, but psychologists and relationship researchers have identified specific circumstances where disengagement without explanation may be justified. When a relationship involves manipulation, coercion, stalking, or any form of abuse, maintaining contact to provide a polite exit can put the person at physical or psychological risk, and in those cases silence becomes a boundary rather than an act of neglect. Jen Nice-Vilhar, writing in Psychology Today in 2015, described ghosting as the ultimate use of the silent treatment and noted that its emotional impact mirrors rejection pain visible on fMRI brain scans, activating the same neural pathways as physical injury. Understanding this neuroscience reframes ghosting from a minor social faux pas into something with measurable biological consequences, which is why the decision to disappear from someone's life deserves more deliberation than a simple swipe or a muted notification. In 1902, sociologist Charles Horton Cooley introduced the concept of the looking-glass self, the idea that our sense of identity is shaped by how we believe others perceive us, and this framework maps directly onto the ghost self phenomenon. According to Cooley's theory, we imagine how we appear to another person, we imagine their judgment of that appearance, and we develop a feeling about ourselves based on that imagined judgment, a three-step process that continues running even when the other person is no longer present to confirm or deny our assumptions. When you are ghosted, the looking glass shatters, you lose access to the reflection that was helping you construct part of your identity, and you are left projecting onto a blank screen. British anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research suggests that humans can maintain roughly 150 stable social relationships at any given time, which means that at any moment, approximately 150 ghost selves of you are active in other minds, each one a slightly different composite built from different interactions, different contexts, and different emotional states. Attachment theory, first developed by John Bowlby in the 1950s and later expanded by Mary Ainsworth through her strange situation experiments in 1969, offers another lens for understanding why ghosting wounds some people more deeply than others. Individuals with anxious attachment styles, roughly 20% of the population according to research by Hazan and Shaver published in 1987, tend to interpret ghosting as confirmation of their deepest fear that they are unworthy of consistent love. Those with avoidant attachment, a similar percentage, may themselves be more likely to ghost because emotional confrontation triggers their core defense mechanism of withdrawal. Recognizing your own attachment pattern does not excuse harmful behavior, but it does provide a map for understanding why your ghost self might carry a particular emotional charge in the minds of people you have left behind. The digital age has multiplied the number of ghost selves each person generates by an order of magnitude that previous generations never experienced. Before smartphones, your ghost self existed only in the direct memories of people who knew you face to face, but now it lives in archived text messages, old social media posts, tagged photographs, and cached profile pages that persist long after you have moved on.
A 2021 report from the Pew Research Center found that 31% of American adults have used a dating app, each interaction spawning a micro-ghost self in the mind of a stranger who swiped right, exchanged a few messages, and then watched the conversation go dark.
The permanence of digital traces means your ghost self is no longer purely psychological, it is also archaeological, a recoverable artifact that someone can revisit years later with a simple search, encountering a frozen version of you that no longer matches who you have become. What separates people who are haunted by their ghost selves from those who find peace with them often comes down to a single practice: the willingness to sit with discomfort rather than flee from it. Meditation research conducted at Johns Hopkins University in 2014, analyzing over 18,000 studies, found that mindfulness practices produced moderate evidence of reduced anxiety, depression, and pain, all emotional states intensified by the ambiguity of being ghosted or by guilt over ghosting someone else. The practice does not erase the ghost self that lives in another person's mind, but it changes your relationship to the one that lives in yours, the internal narrator who replays old conversations and imagines worst-case interpretations. By building tolerance for uncertainty, you stop feeding the ghost with anxious energy, and it gradually shifts from a source of torment into a neutral memory, still present but no longer controlling your present-day choices. Subscribe to Mind Unlocked and hit the bell so you never miss a deep dive into the patterns running beneath your everyday thoughts, because understanding your ghost self is just the beginning of understanding the invisible architecture of every connection you will ever make.